I have to say, I have a lot of memories of Diane. I guess I feel as though I've known you my whole life.
On the calm morning of October 11th, 2025, the world woke to heartbreaking news. Diane Keaton, one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses, had passed away at the age of 79. The announcement spread like wildfire, leaving fans, friends, and fellow actors in shock. Hollywood fell silent, and in that silence, one man's pain echoed louder than anything else: Al Pacino's. For decades, the two had shared a bond that blurred the line between professional respect and deep personal love. Their connection began on the set of The Godfather in 1971 and lasted long after the cameras stopped rolling. That morning, when Al Pacino received the devastating call, witnesses said he sat alone for hours, unable to speak, tears quietly rolling down his face. "She was the greatest love of my life," he whispered to a close friend. Even as the world mourned a legendary actress, Pacino mourned something far more personal: the love he once had and the decision he would regret forever. Diane Keaton's home in Los Angeles had always been a peaceful place filled with books, art, and the laughter of her two adopted children, Dexter and Duke. But on that fateful morning, the calm was shattered when emergency services received a brief call. Person down. Paramedics rushed to her house and found Diane lying motionless near a window where she often read her favorite scripts. The room was spotless and calm, as if time had paused. There were no signs of distress or fear, only silence and sunlight. Within hours, her passing was confirmed, and the world lost one of its most graceful and unique stars. While her family requested privacy, they shared that she had faced several health battles in recent years. Diane had been open about her lifelong struggle with skin cancer and her past issues with eating disorders, both of which had left their marks on her body. Yet she had never allowed illness to define her. She lived creatively, surrounded by beauty, humor, and love, just as she wished to leave the world. Just 3 days later, on October 14th, Diane Keaton's private funeral was held by the sea, a place she had always found comforting. Instead of a glamorous Hollywood ceremony, her family chose a quiet garden surrounded by olive trees and the sound of gentle waves. The scene was simple and pure, much like Diane herself. Guests were greeted by the smell of lavender picked from her own garden and the soft notes of a piano playing Annie Hall's theme, a song Diane once called "the laughter of my soul." Friends and colleagues arrived quietly, dressed not in black designer outfits, but in gentle shades of gray and cream. Among the first to arrive were Bette Midler and Carol Bayer Sager, two women who had known Diane for decades. They hugged each other tightly, tears flowing freely, sharing whispered stories of Diane's humor and honesty. "She never pretended," Sager said softly. "She was just Diane, full of light and laughter." The ceremony was intimate, yet filled with famous faces who had shared the screen and stage with Diane Keaton. Woody Allen, looking frail and emotional, arrived late and sat alone in a wooden chair. He had once described Diane as a creative storm in human form. When invited to speak, his voice trembled as he recalled their early years working together on Annie Hall, the film that won Diane her first Oscar in 1978. "She was the funniest person I ever met," he said quietly. "She didn't just act. She lived every moment like it was art." Sitting nearby, Francis Ford Coppola and Robert De Niro exchanged solemn nods. Coppola spoke briefly, calling her the heart of the Godfather and the soul of a generation. De Niro, emotional but composed, added, "She was kind, original, and unforgettable." As their words faded, the crowd fell silent. Only the sound of ocean waves filled the air, carrying away their grief like a soft prayer. It was clear that Diane had left behind not just an acting legacy, but a community of people whose lives she had deeply touched. At the center of the ceremony were Diane's two beloved children, Dexter, now 29, and Duke, 25. They stood side by side holding hands, their faces calm but filled with sorrow. Dexter spoke first, her voice trembling yet clear. "Mom always said life is a comedy," she began, smiling through tears. "Even when it hurts, you have to keep laughing." The audience chuckled softly. Everyone knew Diane's love for laughter, even in the darkest times. Duke followed, recalling warm memories of his mother's playful spirit. She loved wearing her funny hats, dancing around the living room, and talking to our dog like he was human, he said, bringing a bittersweet smile to everyone's face. Their words perfectly captured Diane's true essence. A woman who could balance humor and heartbreak, art and family, fame and simplicity. In that quiet seaside garden, her children reminded everyone that behind the Hollywood star was a gentle mother who had chosen love over luxury and kindness over fame. Although Al Pacino could not attend Diane's funeral in person, his absence spoke louder than any speech. Close friends revealed that he was too heartbroken to face the reality of her passing. Instead, he chose to honor her in silence, surrounded by old photographs and handwritten notes she had once given him. He spent hours reading her letters and touching the small silver bracelet she had gifted him during their time together. "Marry me or we break up," Diane had once told him, a moment that haunted Pacino for the rest of his life. He chose his freedom then, but after her death, he admitted that it was a mistake that would forever weigh on his heart. "She was the greatest love of my life," he said quietly to a friend. The world saw his tribute not in words, but in emotion. A rare glimpse into the soul of a man who had always guarded his feelings behind tough movie roles. That moment reminded everyone that even legends like Al Pacino are not immune to love's deepest pain. Diane Keaton and Al Pacino's love story began more than 50 years ago on the set of The Godfather. Diane played Kay Adams, the loyal wife of Michael Corleone, while Al Pacino portrayed the ruthless mafia son. What started as on-screen chemistry soon turned into a real relationship filled with passion, laughter, and countless creative memories. Their connection lasted on and off for 15 years, a bond that neither time nor distance could erase. Even after they parted ways, both continued to speak fondly of each other in interviews. Diane once said, "He was everything. Brilliant, mysterious, and impossible not to love." Pacino, too, confessed that she brought peace to his chaotic life. Their story was not perfect. It was full of missed chances and pride, but that imperfection made it real. In many ways, their relationship mirrored their most famous characters, a mix of love, regret, and unspoken emotion. And though they never married, their affection remained one of Hollywood's most legendary romances. Throughout her career, Diane Keaton was open about her health struggles. In her 20s, she developed bulimia, a serious eating disorder that haunted her for years. She admitted to consuming thousands of calories daily, then punishing herself out of guilt. With therapy and self-awareness, she eventually overcame it and became a quiet advocate for mental health. Later, she fought skin cancer, which she said followed her like a shadow. Despite surgeries and treatments, she never lost her smile or her humor. Friends often described her as a warrior dressed in laughter. In her final months, those close to her noticed that she appeared frailer, but still filled with warmth and curiosity about life. She preferred staying home, writing in her journals, and spending time with her children and her loyal dog, Reggie. When she passed away, many believed she had sensed her time was near and wanted her final days to be calm, creative, and surrounded by love, not cameras. Her quiet bravery remains one of the most inspiring parts of her legacy. The days following Diane's death were filled with tributes from across the entertainment world. Social media flooded with messages from actors, directors, and fans sharing how she had inspired them. Reese Witherspoon wrote, "She changed how we see women on screen. Strong, funny, and totally herself." Jane Fonda and Goldie Hawn, her close friends from book club, attended the service together, remembering Diane's playful energy and wisdom. Michael Douglas called her a once-in-a-century talent. Clips of her most iconic moments, laughing with Jack Nicholson in Something's Gotta Give, comforting Steve Martin in Father of the Bride, dancing joyfully in Manhattan, were replayed everywhere. For fans, these scenes became more than just movie moments. They were reminders of the warmth and humor Diane brought to every role. Her legacy stretched far beyond her films. She had inspired countless artists to stay true to themselves and to never hide their quirks, a message she embodied every single day of her extraordinary life. For Al Pacino, Diane's passing reopened memories he had long kept locked away. In the quiet of his home, he revisited photo albums from their days filming The Godfather 2 and The 3. Each picture, Diane laughing between takes, the two sharing coffee or rehearsing intense scenes, carried a lifetime of emotion. Friends said Pacino would often repeat her words from an old note. Don't forget to smile, even when the world is against you. Those simple words now defined how he chose to remember her. With warmth, not despair. He declined public interviews, but asked friends to honor her by watching her films and celebrating her artistry. Dianne Keaton's influence stretched far beyond her films. She was never the typical Hollywood star. She didn't fit into anyone's box. While other actresses followed the traditional route of beauty and glamour, Dianne built her own path, filled with courage, humor, and originality. From the very beginning, she refused to play by the rules. When she auditioned for The Godfather, Francis Ford Coppola was unsure whether she fit the role. But Dianne's quiet strength and natural wit immediately caught his attention. She wasn't the kind of actress who tried to impress people. She simply was herself, and that was what made her unforgettable. In Annie Hall, her loose suits, quirky hats, and natural laughter became symbols of individuality. The world didn't just fall in love with her acting, it fell in love with her personality. Fashion magazines tried to copy her style, and women everywhere started dressing like her, not to look like a model, but to look like themselves. Dianne Keaton didn't just play characters. She gave people permission to be real. That honesty became her greatest legacy. Before Dianne, most leading women in Hollywood were written as either perfect beauties or helpless victims. But when she appeared on screen, everything changed. Her characters were funny, awkward, smart, and brave all at once. In Annie Hall, she played a woman who wasn't afraid to be imperfect. She stuttered, laughed at herself, and showed the world that real women could be messy and magical at the same time. Her performance won her the Academy Award for Best Actress, but more importantly, it changed the way Hollywood looked at women forever. After that, she continued to choose roles that broke stereotypes. From Baby Boom to Something's Gotta Give, she played strong women who were not defined by age, beauty, or men. Her honesty made her characters relatable, especially to women who felt unseen. Dianne once said, "I never wanted to be perfect. I just wanted to be real." That one line summed up her entire philosophy. And it still inspires actresses today. Stars like Emma Stone, Jennifer Lawrence, and Anne Hathaway have all named Dianne Keaton as a role model for women who want to act with authenticity. Despite her huge fame, Dianne Keaton was famously private about her personal life. She never married, something that made her stand out in an industry obsessed with image and romance. But that decision didn't come from loneliness or bitterness. As she often said in interviews, "I didn't need a husband to complete me." Her relationships with famous men like Warren Beatty, Woody Allen, and Al Pacino were well known, but Dianne always kept her independence. She wanted to live life on her own terms. Later in life, she adopted 2 children, proving that family doesn't have to look traditional to be filled with love. Her home in Los Angeles became a creative space filled with art, books, and photographs. She designed her own house and filled it with furniture she restored herself. "It's not just a house," she said once. "It's my story." That home became her sanctuary, a quiet world where she could paint, write, and spend time with her children. Even at the height of her fame, she preferred staying home with her dog and reading scripts by the fireplace instead of attending Hollywood parties. What many people don't know is that Dianne Keaton was also an extraordinary photographer, architect, and writer. She published several books, including Clown Paintings, California Romantica, and her deeply personal memoir, Then Again. Each of these works showed a different side of her: the observer, the dreamer, the historian. She had a special love for architecture, often buying old houses and restoring them to their original beauty. She once said, "Old buildings have souls. I just try to listen to them." Her art was deeply tied to her belief that beauty exists in imperfection, a philosophy she carried in every part of her life. Even her photography reflected this. She captured random moments: a child playing on a street, an elderly couple holding hands, a shadow on a wall. These images weren't glamorous, but they were honest. And that honesty was pure Dianne Keaton. She taught people that you don't need to chase perfection. You just need to find meaning in small, beautiful moments. As Dianne grew older, her greatest joy became her 2 children, Dexter and Duke. She often said that motherhood changed everything for her. "It gave me purpose," she shared in one interview. "They made me realize what really matters." Dianne raised them with love and laughter, always encouraging them to be creative and kind. She often attended her daughter's art shows and her son's college performances, quietly sitting in the back to avoid attention. Her children described her as a mom who could turn a normal day into an adventure. They often joked about her famous love for hats, her endless energy, and her habit of talking to strangers in the grocery store. Even as her health declined, Dianne kept her spirit high, making her kids laugh with her silly dance moves or random singing. Her love for